It is now 6:28, and this is 1320 WILS. Imagine this. The median annual cost for a private nursing home room now is over $91,000, and Medicare does not pay for long-term nursing home care. So what are people to do? Let's talk to Dr. Kelley Newcomer. She's a medical director at Manchester Place Group Homes. That's a nursing home in Texas. Dr. Newcomer, great to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we talked briefly before, and you said that you were actually moving your in-laws into a nursing home. What triggers that decision usually? How do you decide now's the time?
Well, for us, my father-in-law passed away in February, and then when they were both together, they were doing all right. But since then, my mother-in-law's had a little bit more difficulty coping on her own. Mm-hmm. And, all of us at one point or another are going to get that phone call that makes us realize they're not really able to do it on their own anymore. And for us, it was several phone calls, but probably the one that really, the straw that broke the camel's back was when we got the call that she was at the bank trying to wire money to the IRS and had gotten a fraudulent phone call and responded to that.
Wow. Amazing. That's frightening and amazing. Did she want to make this move? Does she want to make the move?
Not really. She's pretty reluctant, but we've been pretty firm.
Mm-hmm. And because at this point you feel so it's not a physical concern, it's just the fact that she might be manipulated somehow, or?
It's both. It's both a little bit of cognitive insufficiency as well as, just being very physically frail. She's in a 4,500 square foot home. She can't really take care of it anymore. So if something goes wrong, we're driving 3.5 hours away to try to handle things.
What kind of a transition is that from going to the home you've lived in to suddenly being in a nursing home?
Well, there are several levels of care just to kind of, I don't know what you guys have talked about before, but we're moving to a senior community, which is independent living, but in a senior community. So she'll be about a half a mile from our house. She'll still have her car. Mm-hmm. She'll still be able to do things independently, but there's always people around in case there's a problem. There's an emergency call button, things like that.
Well, what about, is there a difficulty socially when people first show up? Do they kind of, do they want to run away from there?
Oh, for sure. I think there's always a lot of difficulty because people have been doing things the same way for a very long time, and to get them to change is very difficult. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to choose the level of care that's appropriate for your parent. Right. And, senior independent living is completely different than, say, assisted living, where you're somewhat independent, but you need help with daily activities like bathing and dressing. Mm-hmm. And then the next step would be nursing care,
where it's like 24/7, that kind of care. Now,
exactly.
So when we talk about this cost, this $91,000 for a private nursing home room, that sounds extraordinary. What is that typical, that kind of number?
Yeah, the range is, I usually think in per month, but the range is somewhere between about $5,500 to about $8,000 a month for full nursing care.
Full nursing care. And what is that, most of the folks there, or typically is a small number?
That's going to be pretty much, that's the price range if you have full skilled nursing care.
24/7, you mean?
Right.
Okay.
But if you move into something smaller, say like senior living, you're looking more like $2,000 to $3,000 in that range.
Mm-hmm. Now, Medicare does not cover any of this. Is that correct?
It covers none of that.
So you need to have the money, basically, or you just don't get to live in a nursing home? Or?
Well, if you are destitute, and I mean literally destitute, then you can qualify for Medicaid, and Medicaid does pay for long-term care in a nursing home. However, a Medicaid nursing home is not going to be the same as a private pay nursing home.
How different are those Medicaid nursing homes?
Well, they're different because, the reimbursement by Medicaid for a nursing home is more on the range of $3,000 to $3,500 per month versus like in a private pay, it's going to start at probably $5,500 a month. So that's a huge difference as far as reimbursement, and so you're obviously going to get more if you pay more.
So is the staff going to have a different kind of attitude at a Medicaid nursing home?
I think it's very variable. In my job and what I do, I go to all sorts of care because I see patients where they are in both home and in hospice, and so we have like a house call physicians group. Mm-hmm. So we see them at their home independent, in assisted living, in full nursing care, and then we also make hospice calls. So we're seeing all levels of care, and I think there are some very good Medicaid nursing homes out there. You just have to be look around
and find one. Now, I mean, you see this up close. What is the experience like at the end of our lives when we end up in these nursing homes? Are we going to enjoy them, or just deal with them, or how are we going to approach them, you think?
Well, I personally feel like the big institutional nursing home model is not going to be the way of the future. You know, the way of the future really, I think, for end-of-life care is more of a small group home. And those are popping up all over the place around the country. And they're really aimed at folks who have been told they can no longer live in assisted living because they need more care than assisted living can provide. But they've also decided, either themselves or their family members have decided, that they're really towards the end of their life, and their focus at that point is comfort and not aggressive care, which is what's usually administered in a nursing home. Okay. In a nursing home, they're all about taking care of acute problems with 911 and very aggressive care, whereas a lot of group homes are really designed for people. It's a more relaxed attitude. You know, someone's going to be there to meet all of your custodial
So people are getting ready for the end of life at that point, you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the wave of the future, because I think people are becoming more and more aware of the fact that there is a certain point at which traditional Medicare is just or traditional medical settings are no longer helpful.
Now, for yourself, do you see yourself in one of these small group homes at the end of it? Or?
I do. That's what we were about at Manchester Place. We're a set of small group homes, and it allows people to live in a home setting with caregivers they know well. It's a small caregiver-to-patient ratio. It's more on the line of 4 to 6 patients per caregiver, whereas on the nursing home, you might be 1 to 12, 1 to 14.
Wow.
So it's a smaller care ratio, but it's a lower level of care in the sense that you're not going to have an RN, you're going to have an LVN or a nurse's aide helping you.
Gotcha. Oh, it's Dr. Kelley Newcomer, Medical Director at Manchester Place Group Homes, ManchesterPlaceCareHomes.com. It's only in Texas that you're located, or?
Yes, currently we are only in Texas.
Yeah, probably a good place to retire, right? Nice and warm, and maybe a nice place to be in a group home, too. Although typically you'd want to be right next to your family, right? Somewhere within, a half hour of where your family lives, that kind of thing?
Well, what I generally tell people is if your parents are involved in the community and they have people visiting them and they have good connections, it's really not a good time to move them, even if they're struggling a little bit. To me, it's worth a little bit of risk of safety for their quality of life because they're connected. I really feel like the time to move people is when they're no longer connected or able to be connected to their community, because at that point, it's really important for them to be close to their children. And so that's the decision that we've made with my mother-in-law. We want her to be close to us so we can take her out to dinner and take her to see our children's activities and to be close. But if someone's really connected in the community, it's very hard to replace that as a child.
Sure. Dr. Kelley Newcomer, ManchesterPlaceCareHomes.com. Dr. Newcomer, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.